What is up, guys? This is gonna be part two of producing writing your own songs. Just another disclaimer, I'm literally just a high schooler doing this on my own. So I don't have the most high quality type of microphones and gear at my disposal, but what I'm trying to show with all the videos, I'm trying to show this idea that really any type of person that has a half decent microphone, they could honestly produce their own song and they can make it sound great. There's basics I just want to share with people. Obviously, there's stuff that I haven't perfected yet. If you guys have your own tips, feel free to drop them below. Hello, what is up, guys? So it is Chris from Internationally Known Band Heist of Fear, and today we are doing part two, which is going to be producing your song. I have this demo pulled up right here, and I'm going to run through just some of the general production techniques that it did do. In the comments below, I will post a link or some type of post to some EQ sweet spots that do help me. Just some general basic stuff we'll go over today would be EQ, compression, and how to use them. So as you can see, we have our entire song recorded here except for the vocals, which we'll do in a separate part. But as you can see from here, starts with one mono guitar, which I did copy paste. And what that does is that does not create that wide picture that I was talking about in the last one. You can only get that from doubling your guitar part, which is playing it twice. So what I did here is I did a normal cutoff right around 80 Hz. That's going to be a normal cutoff where the bottom E string is found. And as you can see, I took a little bit of a subtractive EQ right around 150 Hz. What that's going to do is that's going to take up a bit of those a bit of the build-up that's going to happen in a palm muting section. So to demonstrate, I could add just a bunch of guitar here to the low end, which is going to make it a little bit more woofy. But when you take it back out to how it was sitting before, what you're going to get is you're going to get a lot more of a cleaner response, especially in the palm muting parts. So what we also have here is we're also going to have other frequencies, like we have a 1.2K sitting right here, and I can demonstrate what this is right here, the right guitar. If you added a bunch of 1.2K, it's going to stick out quite a bit, almost like a telephone. Versus where if it's sitting very behind, it lacks that mid-range. So I've seen a lot of metal bands, they'll scoop their mid-range out. I did a little bit of a subtractive one to blend with your guitar, because when you blend the two, when you have too much of the same tone, what you're going to get is you're going to get a frequency buildup, which I can show you later in the song where that does happen. But to finish showing you what EQ is, we also have a 4.8. This is right around where the guitar's bite would come from. So if I boosted this, it'd sound very trebly, just like that. If I took it all away, it'd almost sound like it's behind a wall. So we have very trebly, we have behind a wall, and we have that perfect little blend before it gets too bad. Then also we have a little bit of a sweet spot right here sitting at 8K. This is going to be a little bit of air for the guitar. When you take it out, it's just a little bit of fresh air. When you add it to the guitars, it's just going to give a little bit of presence to the mix. So next I'm going to show you guys compression, what that's going to do, and how it works in a mix. And after that I'm going to go and troubleshoot some common issues that I've experienced in my mixes. So we have a compression sitting right here. And what it's going to do is it's going to be where the slappiness of the drums almost come from, the punch. What this does is it's going to pick up a frequency every single little hit, that spike in volume, and it's going to try and even that out a little bit. I have a later attack, so more of that initial punch goes through, and as you can see, it creates a bit of a squeeze sound. But when you add it to the context with other instruments, like let's say the raw drum track, or it's not a raw track, but no effects on it. And as you can see here, what I did for that is I took a bit of a low end boost, I did a bit of a mid boost there, and what this is going to create is a drum sound like this. I put my reverb in stereo. So next what I'm going to show you is my EQ on my bass. So what I did for this is I did a what looks like a just subtractive boost, or subtractive EQ, my apologies. We took 40 Hz right down there, because your bottom E string is going to be right around 42 Hz in the bass. Over 2.3K is really not necessary for bass. It's a low-end instrument, so it's gonna live down there. I also added a little bit of a distortion. What this is gonna do is just give it a little bit more grit. That'll make it stand out. I can show you what that would sound like. If we added it, it'd be under harmonic. If we boosted it like that, obviously it's extreme. It's very extreme, obviously, but what that does is that's going to give it more color, which in the context of the mix, that's definitely going to make it stand out a lot more. So what I also did to my drums is same thing. I did an EQ to those. This one is a little different because what I did in this one is I boosted the low end. So this is going to be a lot more, almost like a pulsating low end. If I cranked it like this, it almost sounds like it's not music, you know. But what I did with that is I also blended it with a drum raw track. No effects on that, like a reverb, nothing like that. And you're gonna get this full-on sound. This one does have reverb. As you can see, I just turned to one of the presets, and you can just kind of edit that with your other sounds. Obviously, it's not perfect, but what I can show you that I did is I compressed all the drum tracks. They're very evenly a later attack. What I also did is I EQ'd all three of them. I boosted the low end. What I did is I also did a lower mid-range boost. What that's going to do is that's going to make the toms pop out more, the lower resonance of your snare. So what we also got going on here, this is my drum EQ. I have 3 different drum tracks, and I will elaborate on that in one moment. So to start off, we have a similar EQ on all 3. But it does vary a little bit. So the main drum track that you're going to use, it's going to sound like this. It's just what you recorded from your mics. And what I did is I boosted my low end. I did a mid-range boost with my toms. I also did a bit of a higher mid boost with 2.1. That's going to boost my snare sound a little bit. And right around 7.3 be the wires in the snare, which is where I did another boost. And just like any other instrument, when you boost like that, it's not as listenable. When you take it out, not as listenable. But when you have it sitting right where it was. What I also did to go with that is I also did a backing snare, or a reverb sound. And what this EQ has is it's going to have a lot more of a depleted higher sound, it looks like. What I also did to go with that is I did a reverb EQ, and it looks like I did a little bit of boost on every range of the sound, which is going to create more of a, which is going to push the reverb. Jesus, I can't talk. So what I also did here is I did a different EQ for my reverb, so this is going to stand out a little more than my actual drum track does. But when you blend the two, can create a sound that blends. And to go on top of that, I also did a major low end boost with my to go along with that, this is my bottom track, and I did boost this one at the lows a lot more. And what this is gonna sound like, I put what would be a gate on here. You can find it right underneath your harmonic. Subharmonic is what I used. And what this does is can create almost like a pulsating type of sound that goes underneath it. But when you blend it to boost it, it sounds like this. So it doesn't even sound that much like a musical element. But when you add it with the rest of your drums, it's going to create this very workable sound. So it sounds a little bit squeezed, that is with the reverb, of course. So just like this, as you can see. So as you can see, there's the elements of reverb. You could always make that more or less. Just like that. And you can also change the volumes of all of these. If I wanted to be like this, I could. But I like to keep this sitting right around 7 or 8 negative 7 or negative 8. And on top of that, I'm going to start on compression. What this does is this is what's going to pick up the initial hit of an instrument or string, and that's going to try and even out the frequencies so it's not very all over the place in its volume. So I have a higher compression sitting right here, 6. If you had a very high, like 10, this is very much big a drum room. So if I kept it up here, it sounded a lot more like a drum room, almost like When the Levee Breaks, Led Zeppelin. But I do have a lower compression. I don't even have a compression on my bass. But for bass, you would usually use like a 2 or 3 compression. For guitars, you'd use a similar type of compression. I have this as my settings. It's a very low, very standard type of ratio. But the higher you go, the more the sound's gonna feel squeezed and very evened out. So as you can see, there's also more buttons to your compression. No matter what, you're gonna have the same type of layout. It might look a little different. This is the Focusrite, obviously, but if you grabbed any type of compressor from here, even this one, it works all the same. So to demonstrate, what you got is you have your attack here. This is how fast your sound is gonna be picked up. So if you have a later one, you're gonna get a lot more punch to your instrument because your initial hit is gonna go through better. And your release, I like to leave it just at your standard whatever it is, because that is how fast your signal gets released after it is evened out. So another important feature you're gonna have to pay attention to would be your threshold. And this is going to be almost like the volume knob on this. Lots of times I aim for right around a -3 that's sitting there. As you can see, if I go lower, it's going to be a lot quieter. If I go all the way up, it's going to be very loud. But if I have it sitting right where it was before, it's going to be sitting right around -3, which is usually a good estimate. Take a look here. Other effects I'm using here. We also have reverb, that's just your normal echo. It's very much to taste. I use different reverbs on this in my drums, as you can see. So there's 2 different reverb sounds there. But, take a look from here. Other effects that I do use, I think I might have shown this earlier, is my, distortion that I use for my amp. For the amp sim that I recorded into, you could also use just your normal distortion from whatever amp that you own. That's what I felt like using, so yeah. As you can see right here, what we have is a octave part that does come in. And what I did to this one, as you can see, there's a lot more of the lower end taken out, because the octave part's a lot higher notes on your guitar neck. As you can see, I can demonstrate all the octaves are sitting on your A and G, all that stuff. So what that's gonna do is that's gonna very much have unneeded frequencies that are lower in the mix. And what I mean by that is your lower frequencies are not as much needed as your center mid range. It looks like, yep, that's sitting there. Take a second here. So I'll take a solo off, or soloing your instrument dial. So at this point, what we're going to do, I'm going to show you just a couple common issues that happen in your mix, and things that you can do to help troubleshoot them. So as you can see, I have my bass, I have my right guitar, and I have my left guitar. And you can see there's the guitar solo that does come in. And something that does help when there's a mid-range build-up, as you can hear here. But as you can hear in the mix, your guitar solo, it almost seems like there's too much distortion on it. So ways to fix this, you could obviously turn a lot less distortion on it. This was up all the way, so that's going to create a lot of more force compression onto your reverb. Because what distortion does, you have a wave, and it can only go into a certain frequency before it reaches its max. And this amplitude, once it reaches that max amplitude, it's going to start to distort and crack, and that's how you get your very much distorted sound in an audio sense. So to help compensate with a mid-range build-up, what you can very much do is you can just go into your mix, take out the unwanted frequencies. You can add if you need to. It sounds like there's a lot more of a mid-range build-up, so to fix this you can always just roll a little extra off. What I also did is I'm gonna put less gain on my reverb, and I'm gonna sub that out for more gain on my actual guitar. These are the same part, but one is reverb and one is the actual solo. This is just a copy paste of it though. So continue, we can see there's some fades here. This just kind of helps to keep it clean. Almost like a lot of 80s songs fade out. Yeah. Okay, so we are back, and what I'm going to work on next, I pulled up a different song. This is like a Vice, we recently released this. But I wanted to show you guys what I did to the vocals and vocal production. So I actually am using the same mic right now. It is a Condenser AT2020, which is a condenser mic. It's going through a pop filter. I have it hooked up to my Focusrite, the Scarlett. It's a one input, and it also has a guitar input for instrument cable. So as you can see, this is just a recording of an AI doing Cartman's voice, and what we did is we actually laid that over the entire mix. But as you can see, there's not much EQ on it. I just boosted the volume. There's reverb on it, like I was doing on the other tracks. There's a bit of compression on here. To show you what we did in the actual vocals, I can solo them right here. What we did is we took two different tracks, we lined it up to the rest of the song. I'm so lost. I did a little bit of a small reverb. Not a lot of reverb is really needed. The second one does not have any reverb on it. What I did also is I did de-ess it. What de-essing does is it's going to take your plosives that you have, a lot of P's, T's, if you say a lot of S like that, that's going to have a lot of build up on your mic. So what this does is this is going to help even that out. It's another form of compression. Also, when you're doing these types of songs, a lot of producers, they put multiple compressions. They'll put a compression on the guitar, they'll do one on a drum, then they'll do another one at the end, like a master bus compression on a group of instruments. That's very common. Personally, I feel how my instruments are, I like the sound how it is, so I choose not to, but that's always an option too. So to go into this, what I did is I took out 186 Hertz. That was my my high pass. So what we have here, just to elaborate a little more, this is your high pass and this is going to be your low pass filter. So your high pass is only letting the high frequencies pass through, and if you did the opposite, it'd be a low pass. This is only going to let your low frequencies pass through. So in context, when you take this out, it's just the extent of what you do that to. So I personally turn it off because the condenser mic gets a little bit of air, which does add higher frequencies to the mix that aren't just cymbals. So what I did here, it looks like I boosted right around 2.8 kHz and 1.7. This is going to be right around what's going to stand out most to the listener in the context of a mix. 2K is really what's going to stand out most to the listener's ear. 4K is what I find to be a very sensitive spot as well. On my vocals, I did a bit of a light compression, 3/8. So that's a pretty standard bit of a mid compression. I have my reverb on there. I did a channel strip, which is just a blend of your EQ and your compression, as you can see here. Go back through this. I also did a vocal delay, and I set a separate track for it because I only wanted to do it at certain parts or certain syllables. So as you can see, that's where the delay comes in. So in the context of a song, it's not always needed. I didn't put it in my choruses because I felt like it kind of clouded up the mix a little bit. It made a little too much going on, so you couldn't hear all the instruments. For example, I have a bass. There's an acoustic guitar in this, as you can hear. And I didn't have the intention to make it the center of the mix, but what it's going to do is add a little bit of texture to the guitars. What I did right here, this is another technique you can do. I've seen Linkin Park use it. They put a chorus on their bass to make it sound thicker. So to listen to just the chorus bass, you're going to get a sound that sounds like this. And there's a lot more of a steady low end than you have in just a presence focused bass, which I did by focusing on your distortion. But when you blend the two, you're going to get a very balanced type of bass sound. Looking through the mix here. Other things for vocals that I did. It's important to note this one has a lot more of a lower subtractive EQ, right around 6 Hz. But what I also did in the other one is I boosted frequencies around there. So as you can see, what happens is this is a lot more of a backing vocal.
I'm so lost.
Doesn't have all the presence that your main vocal does. But when you double the two vocals, what you're gonna get
every bridge to the ground
is a lot more filled out frequencies. You're not going to get quite as bad of a build-up as you would when you just boost all the frequencies. As you can see, there was a little bit of a mid-range build-up. That could always be fixed by just taking out a bit of the volume if you have too much gain on it. Looking through this one just to see if there's anything that I can show you guys. For my delay, it's also just like a reverb. There's people that EQ'd a little bit differently. As you can see, I did a very similar to my main vocal, just took a little bit off. There's less of a boost in those areas. There's a little bit more low end on this one too, it looks like. Looks like I want just a little bit more of a low end focus delay. What I also did here, you can see the tape echo. This is my delay that I used. And what I did is I took a duplicate of my vocal track and I just put this effect on it and made this the focus of the track. But in the context of a mix, what it sound like, it sounds more of an echo, which adds a little bit of flavor to your mix. Another example of my guitar solo EQ. There's a big reverb here. This is spread out. Then this is your main one. As you can see, I rolled off quite a bit there. There's that 2K boost to make it stand out to the listener's ear. There's a 1.9 boost there, right at 4 points from. I add just a little bit of air to it with the 8K boost. And to also continue to look at all this, you can see there's reverb here, and this one is a lot more just the subtractive. We took off all the extra air that we didn't need. So what I can always do is I can always make more videos to go along with this. If there's questions I didn't answer, I can always add a third, fourth, as many parts as we need to. There will be a part 3, which is going to go into how I master songs and just refine them a little bit after I have a final mix. Drop any questions, any tips that you guys have. If there's anything that you've seen that does work in the past, just drop it below and leave a like and subscribe.